day everyone, I am Ahaziah, the first reporter of Group 6, and this report is the continuation of Chapter 5, which is entitled How Many Pesos? Under certain conditions, what would be the maximum number of pesos you could have tied up in installment receivables? For example, suppose you hope to sell 100,000 of merchandise a month, or 1,200,000 annually on installment terms. Suppose also that your contracts call for a 10% down payment, 6 months to pay, and a service charge of 1% per month. The maximum peso amount you would have tied up in installment receivables is shown in the table on page 37, which is the next reporter will explain to you later. Next, installment payments for any given month are equal to the total of new installment business in previous month, not including the given month divided by the contract period. Installment receivables for a given month are equal to the installment receivables of the previous month plus the new installment business written during the given month. With a smaller down payment, your maximum pesos tied up in receivables would increase. However, if you use a 3-month instead of 6 months contract, your number of pesos tied up in receivables would decrease. Of course, these are the highly simplified case. All the contracts have the same terms. Second, no customer is past due in his payments. That is more important. No one pays more than he agrees to each month. No one pays in a shorter length of time than agreed. And no one adds additional purchases on his installment contract prior to completion of payments. And all of these factors can change the maximum number of pesos you would have to plan to have tied up in installment receivables.
Good day everyone. My name is Glaiza May Rogan and I'm the next reporter. First, we have here the maximum peso amount tied up in installment receivables. But first, before we proceed to the table, what is installment receivables? An installment contract receivable is a closed-ended receivable. Since the total amount to be paid is determined at the time of the purchase on a monthly basis, during cycling, the monthly payment amount is moved from long-term receivables to open item accounts receivable. The example of installment account is when you open an installment account, you borrow a specific amount of money, then make set payments on the account. Common example of installment loans include mortgage loans, home equity loans, and car loans. A student loan is also an example of an installment account. On the table, we have the month, business written, installment payments, month-end installment or receivables. On the first month, we have the 95,400, but we have no installment payments. And also in the month-end installment or receivables, we also have 95,400. And on the second month, we have the 95,400 business written, and now we have the installment payments of 15,900. Why the month-end installment receivable is 174,900? It is because on the first month, we have the month-end installment or receivables 95,400, and we have in the second month now, we add also the business written 95,400, and the total of 190,800, and we less the installment payments of 15,900. And now we in the second month we have the month end installment receivables of 174,900. Again in third month, fourth month, fifth month, sixth month, seventh month, and so on. Should it be found that it is worthwhile to go into credit selling, then just like any area of management, the implementation of decisions to go into credit selling should begin with a credit plan. The credit plan should include the following. The first one is a forecast of the credit and collection picture in the coming year or several years. Second, a well thought out statement of the credit objectives, the grand design for the credit functions of the firm, and the specific design for each unit or individual involved in credit work. This statement of major and minor objective is the key to the whole credit plan. It should include how much of each peso of sales you are willing to allocate for credit and collection expenses, including salaries and bad debts. Third, a statement of credit policies and procedures designed to coordinate and accomplish the stated objectives by means of standardized and regularized methods of meeting problems and doing specific jobs. Fourth, a program of activities indicating priorities of action steps in achieving the stated objectives. This program should identify, qualify, and quantify credit and collection targets. Last, a budget allocating facilities, materials, and men in order to achieve the same stated objectives. A credit plan should take into account the capabilities and needs of the enterprise and how the credit arm could best serve the overall interest of the business. In other words, the decision to go into credit selling should begin with a credit plan. A credit plan should take into account the capabilities and needs of the enterprise. It should include how much of each peso of sale you are willing to allocate for credit and collection expenses, including salaries and bad debts.
So, good day everyone. This is the continuation of the discussion. So, the credit plan. The credit plan in general is must be well understood, of course, and appreciated by the credit people involved so that it will be implemented as fully as possible, both in letter and spirit instead of just being another wonderful paper. So, the forecast of credit and collection in specific peso figures should be tied in closely with the production and sales forecast. So they focus looking and monitoring in the production and sales forecast to avoid future destruction in the credit plan. In fact, mostly they are formulating credible stress scenarios. They identify, assess, plan, and so on. The credit forecast should, in some manner, shape or form influence, and perhaps tone down the generally over optimistic projections of the sales team. The practical, realistic approach by the credit arm on what sales can in fact be generated by credit and how much of it could be collected is not only important to sales personnel but also to the treasurer or finance man who must map out the firm's budget and cash flows. So the statement of objectives can be simple as possible, just like a political constitution that outlines principles and latter matched by specific laws and regulations. So these are some of examples of overall mission of the credit arm, and the manufacturing company states simply thus. First, they have to determine the financial responsibility of those companies or entities to whom they sell. Next, they have to establish appropriate open credit arrangement and special credit arrangements were necessary for such buyers. Next one is they have to approve orders received accordingly. And lastly, they collect the full amount of the credit granted within the selling terms applicable to the product involved. So these are just some example. So the company's credit representative shall. So this is also the example of some credit arm missions. The company's credit representative shall visit customer in line with the responsibilities of the credit department and all at all times cooperate with the other departments of the company. So yeah, that's all.
Plans and objectives must be reasoned out and written down to be able to sort out and exclude those objectives that do not promote the business or are not desirable for the company. It is obvious that the credit department decides on the financial responsibility of customers, not the sales department or any other department. The credit department determines the terms of credit, not the sales department or any other department. The credit department approves credit and must collect them all, not the sales or any other department. Therefore, responsibilities are clearly defined in large multi-billion-dollar companies, so they have to be clearly defined in all companies that want to have their loan business under rational control. The rest of the loan plan described can be developed according to the needs and capacities of each company. That's all. Thank you.